Welcome back to Good Sports for You, where we are talking about good sports for you. And today we are going to go into playoff preview number 3. We are talking about the New York Yankees. So what I'm going to do a little bit before we get into it, first of all, I want to make sure that you like, comment, subscribe, do all those things, help this channel keep growing. So first, we're going to go into the good stuff about this Yankees team. When you're looking at the pitching side, there are a couple of good things. There aren't a lot, but there are a couple. They're 4th in K per 9, and they're 2nd in opponent batting average. Both of these things are obviously huge. The less that the ball is in play, the less runs the other team are going to score. That's just basic baseball math, and you absolutely love that for this Yankees team. So shout out to the pitching staff for keeping up their strikeouts really well and for preventing batters from getting hits. But that's really where the really good stuff ends in terms of the pitching. But then you look at the offensive side of the ball where you got this guy, Aaron Judge, doing incredible things, obviously, and that shows for the whole entire team. You look at this squad, they're 1st in runs scored, they're 3rd in on-base percentage, they're 1st in slugging, and they're 1st in OPS. And with this OPS, it's not like it's close. They are 20 points above the next team, just about. So they are leaps and bounds better offensively than basically any other team. And like I said, it's primarily because of Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge, I mean, it's the biggest plus that you can have for any team. He's having one of the best seasons ever on offense. Like, quite frankly, the stats are just gaudy. He missed some time, and that could prevent him from winning MVP. We'll see. I don't know. I'd still probably have him winning MVP. But those numbers offensively are just so good that any team, obviously, like you want him, and it's absolutely huge. But we're going to talk about some negatives with Aaron Judge a little bit later. Next, I want to be talking about things that are only okay with this Yankees squad. One thing that surprised me is they're only 8th in home runs. I thought that they would have a lot more because of this guy right here. You know, he has so many home runs, and it's such a potent offense. You know, you got Giancarlo Stanton, Cody Bellinger, Trent Grisham, too, has been having an awesome season. Shout out, Trent. And you got that short porch over in right field where balls are just able to fly over so easily. I was just at a Yankees game last night, and let me tell you, that porch is short over there. So, like, when you're going on the road in the playoffs and you're going to be facing a lot better pitching staffs, I would expect that home run number and that home run rate, honestly, to go down a little bit. Honestly, though, it's all dependent on Judge and how well he does. And when you're looking at that squad, and him specifically, his postseason numbers have been kind of shaky at best, especially by his standards, I will say that. Next, you're looking at 10th in walks, which, again, I was a little bit surprised about. I just kind of assumed that it would be a little bit better. And in addition, they're 11th in batting average, which is, in my opinion, shockingly low. But what I will say about that is that batting average is not an end-all, be-all stat by any means, you know? And when you have such a complete offense that has a very high on-base percentage, a very high slugging, and a very high OPS, I wouldn't worry about batting average very much at all, like when all those other things are so good. What I would worry about more is, like, making sure that you're able to keep up that home run production as the playoff goes on. And then we're going to next look at a little bit of running. 7th in stolen bases and 8th in base running runs. That's fine, but it's not great. And what I will say, and I stress this in my Phillies video, is good teams find ways to get the extra bases. And in the playoffs, that's more important than ever. And no team knows that better than the Yankees. I mean, you look over at the Red Sox in 2004 when Dave Roberts, that steal changed the whole entire series 100%. Like, if it wasn't for that steal, the Yankees probably would have won the whole entire thing. So it's like no team knows that you need to steal bases well and efficiently in the playoffs than the Yankees do. So hopefully they can turn that up. I don't know if they will, but hopefully that they can. I'd like to see that a little bit higher. Looking at the pitching side of things, they're 15th among team ERAs, so they are smack dab in the middle of the road, which in my opinion is not good enough for the playoffs. Like, pitching is what wins championships. You need to have a better ERA, point blank, period. They are 9th in least amount of home runs allowed this season, which honestly, again, surprised me because of that short porch. So honestly, that's really good for them. Will they be able to keep that up? I don't really know because you're facing a lot more potent offenses, so that's probably going to go up. But then again, like, if your pitching staff is good, it can get the job done. But like I said, the team ERA would lead one to believe that they give up a lot of runs, which they do, so you don't love that at all. They're 13th in whip, so they're letting in a fair amount of base runners, which you don't love at all. Like I said, for this pitching squad, I'd rather have it be better, especially when it comes to the playoffs, than just like an average pitching roster, which is really what it is looking like right now. especially because when you look at fielding, and they are honest, they are about average when it comes to fielding the ball. Fielding wise, you're looking at 14th in fielding run value, and you're looking at 17th in outs above average. So you're kind of middle of the road again in that, a little bit above, a little bit below average, depending on what stat you look at. Which you don't love at all for a team that has a league average pitching staff, because they're allowing a lot of earned runs. They're also probably allowing a lot of unearned runs because you have those unforced errors. Anthony Volpe, prime example, he had a ton of errors this season. It's like the fielding needs to pick that up. They need to clean up around the edges. Like I said, base running and fielding are those two things around the edges that you really want to see better in the playoffs. Those are the things that make or break you 100%. Their fielding isn't as bad as like the Phillies, for example, but they absolutely need to pick it up. And then the last thing that I want to point out in this okay category is they are only one game above 500 against teams who are above 500. These are going to be teams that you're going to be facing off in the playoffs. You'd like to be better than that. These other top echelon teams, the Phillies, the Brewers, all have winning percentages well above 500 when they're facing off teams that are above 500. So like the Yankees beat up on the bad teams. Obviously you need to do that, but they need to do better against the good teams who they will be facing off in the playoffs. So that is definitely scary, something to keep an eye out for. Couple of things that are bad. They walk a lot of guys. They are 23rd in walks per 9. Their strikeout to walk ratio is pretty bad. 21st there. And like I said, errors, they are 24th in errors. So you're letting a lot of runners on base. You're not cleaning up on defense. Those are just things that do not work in the playoffs. Free passes are terrible. Terrible in general. Leadoff walks lead to leadoff runs. That's what they always say. And when you're giving up that many walks, that is scary for any team, especially for a team that is trying to compete and has a subpar defense. So now that you got that all the way, I want to look a little bit at the lineups and then the pitching rotation. When you look at the lineups, they're pretty solidified. At catching, it is primarily Austin Wells, although Ben Rice plays a little bit there too. Austin Wells is a quality bat. He's about a league average bat, which you don't hate at the catching position. What you don't like at the catching position is that his defensive metrics are low. Defensive metrics aren't everything because they're new and everything like that, but when you're looking at the bat like a league average bat, you don't hate that at all. That's pretty solid. Over at first base, you're primarily running Paul Goldschmidt with also some Ben Rice running first base too. Ben Rice, because I've talked about him both, I want to talk about him a little bit now. He's a really good bat. He's really solid. You know, he's not a superstar by any means, but he definitely gets the job done. Paul Goldschmidt has had a little bit of a renaissance to his career this season. He's playing really, really well, and he's a leader in the clubhouse, which you absolutely love. He has so much experience for so many different teams. You know, he had so much time with the Diamondbacks, so much time with the Cardinals, and now he's with the Yankees. So he's definitely a guy that I think that this team needs to look up to for sure. Over at second base, you have Jazz Chisholm. Jazz Chisholm is very good. He's one of the best second basemen in the league. He gets the job done. Some people don't like him because, you know, of his flashy play and swagger and stuff like that. I love him. I think he's a really good player. He's very quality and definitely a step up from a lot of other second basemen in the league, where you definitely find that as a weak spot for a lot of teams. Over at third base right now, you have Ryan McMahon, who is traded from the Rockies, and he's been fine. He's not doing anything really special over there. It's definitely like the weakest spot in their lineup, I would say. And then over at shortstop, you have Anthony Volpe. Also kind of another weak spot, especially defensively. He's really struggled, which is a real bummer because that is where he really thrived in the past. He's a Gold Glove winner. And when you have that good defense that can serve as a really good floor, where you're basically like, hey, if he can have a 110 OPS plus, that's awesome. Instead, this year, his defense has been atrocious. His offense hasn't been bad, but it's been below league average. So it's like, what do you do with this guy, you know? And it's a concern for me for sure. Like, again, similar to Ryan McMahon, like just like that left side of the infield, especially offensively, you don't love that for a playoff team. Over in left field, you're kind of bouncing between Jason Dominguez and Cody Bellinger. Cody Bellinger, I will say, plays all over the outfield, so it's primarily been Jason Dominguez over in left field. This guy, who's like his third year as a rookie, I don't even know. He's fine. He got so much hype, especially when he was younger. He was nicknamed the Martian. He was compared to Mickey Mantle and Mike Trout. Like, dude, come on, what are we doing? He hasn't lived up to those expectations, obviously, because those are two of the best players ever. But he's been fine, and I wish that people went into it with that approach. It's like, oh, if he's a league average player, like, we're happy for him, instead of like, he needs to be one of the best players ever, because he hasn't been. But he's fine. And then over at center field, it's primarily Trent Grisham. Again, Cody Bellinger has played a little bit everywhere. Trent Grisham has had an awesome season. He's had 30-plus home runs. He's playing good defense still. He's one of my favorite players. Like, I loved him when he was in the little bit with the Brewers, even though he had that brutal air. And then with the Padres, like, I was happy to see him do well. He struggled last year. This year, he's been awesome. He's been having one of his best offensive seasons. So, like, you love that for the Yankees to have that guy over in center field. And then right field, I mean, Superman, Aaron Judge. I don't really think we need to talk about him a lot. All we need to say is he's one of the best players we've ever seen. Best hitter maybe since like prime Albert Pujols. I don't think that's ridiculous to say. He may even be better than that, honestly. Best non-steroid user hitter in, I don't even know, like 25, 30 years probably. I mean, like, the stats are gaudy. And over at DH, you have Giancarlo Stanton, and also a little bit of Ben Rice thrown in there too. I made a video about Stanton earlier in the year. It's been so weird. Like, they decided, like, hey, we're going to rest you basically the whole entire season until we need you. And they need him now, and he has absolutely delivered. He's having one of his best seasons ever, according to, like, the stats when you break it down to the rate stats. And you love that for this team, and he's a playoff performer, and he's always coming up in the playoffs. So if you can lean on him, and also he's another guy similar to Paul Goldschmidt who has so much experience that you can lean on that, former MVP winner. Great player, potentially Hall of Fame bound. We'll have to wait and see. Over on the bench, and I struggled to even consider this bench, and that's Cody Bellinger. He's been playing all over the outfield, and he's basically been a starter, so that's why I put him bench, because he's more of like a utility outfield guy, and he can play some first base. He has a ton of playoff experience. They got a bunch of guys with a bunch of playoff experience, and like, you just love that for that squad. He's having an awesome season. He's probably going to get some down ballot MVP votes. Like, shout out to him. He's having one of his best seasons since 2019 when he won MVP. Obviously, he isn't there, because that was superhuman level Cody Bellinger, but he's still having a really nice season. And also you got Ben Rice, and we've already talked about Ben Rice. Again, like, he may not be starting every day, but he can play some catcher, he can play some first base, he can DH, he can do a lot of things, and he's a good player. And also he went to Dartmouth, fun fact. And then also you have Jose Caballero, who arguably is their most important bench piece. He's a utility guy, and he's come up in clutch situations before. He just had a walk-off the other day. And also, they got him in a trade from the Rays, and he's been kind of that guy to replace Anthony Volpe in a sense. When Volpe had his struggles, like, he came in. He can play a little bit everywhere on the infield, which you love. Going over to the rotation, you got Carlos Rodon and Max Fried. Those two guys are your 1-2 punch. They're both very good. They're both all-star caliber pitchers. And for a 1-2, you absolutely love that. They're consistent. They can go late into games. They aren't going to give up a lot of runs. After that, it kind of starts to go downhill. You got Will Warner, you got Luis Gil, and you got Cam Schlittler. Those three guys are fine, but you don't love it. You don't love them as a 3. But what I will say is none of those guys feel like a true 5 to me. That's fine when it comes to playoff time, but you really want a guy who you're like, okay, we can trust you to go out and win game 3, and I just don't feel like you have that with this rotation right now. Especially because when you look at the IL, they have Garrett Cole obviously been gone for the whole entire season. Huge blow to the team early on. And you also have Clark Schmidt, who was also, he was really like one of their 3 guys, And, to just lose an arm that is a quality arm hurts. But what I will say about those 3 guys is all of them make you feel like you at least have a chance to win the game. And then you bring the game over to the bullpen, and some of those chances feel like they can go away quick. The bullpen has been one of the weak spots for this team, and especially because of Devin Williams. And I love Devin Williams. He was awesome with the Brewers, arguably the best relief pitcher in all of baseball. And that has just not been the case this year. He has an ERA approaching 5. Although he's been better recently, he hasn't given up a run in the last 8 appearances. But like I said, I was at the game last night, and they were playing the White Sox, and he gave up a walk and a hit. And I felt like the whole entire stadium was like, oh my gosh, are we going to lose to the White Sox because Devin Williams can't get this last guy out? And that's really what it felt like. But after Devin Williams, it's like you got David Bednar, who was traded over from the Pirates, and he has been really, really good for them. And honestly, he's been maybe the reason for like this late uptick because he has been so good as a closer, which is what Devin Williams couldn't do. Aside from those 2, you got Luke Weaver and Tim Hill, who are both quality. They're not like blow your socks off by any means, but like they're quality. You have Camilo Duval, who has been bad. He came over from the Giants after being great for the Giants, and over here he's been awful. So you got another trade piece as a pitcher that hasn't worked out for them. And then you have Ryan Yarbrough, who is kind of like your long inning relief guy, and he's been pretty solid. So like the bullpen as a whole, David Bednar, I guess, has been your lockdown guy, but I guess I should say David Bednar has been your lockdown guy. I don't know why I put those over his name, but he's been like your lockdown guy, I guess you could say, and he's been good, so I get that, but you don't have a true setup man if Devin Williams is your setup man. Last year, you'd have been like, oh, Devin Williams is your setup man? I feel great. This year, you're like, oh, Devin Williams is your setup man? I hope that we can hold on to this 2-run lead going into the 9th inning, because you don't know if it's going to happen. What I will say about this team, and maybe the most important thing, is that it's a streaky team. They were bad in June and July. Like, they were awful. They've been awesome in August and September. I don't know what's clicked. I don't know what's changed. Maybe, like I said, maybe it's been the trade pieces. It's getting Jose Caballero. It's been getting David Bednar. Those things maybe have made them all click. But they're a streaky squad, and I feel like that if Aaron Judge isn't carrying this team, I don't know what's going to happen. I also will say, I don't think their manager is a good manager. I don't think he's been getting the job done. I think Boone, I just don't think he makes the best decisions. In playoff time, like, we'll see what happens. Judge hasn't been a playoff performer in the past. That's going to be a huge part for him. Stanton has been a playoff performer in the past. That's also huge for them. If they can somehow continue the streak from September going into the playoffs, I feel really good about their chances. If somehow they start to take a downturn going into the playoffs or at the beginning of the playoffs, I do not like their chances. I mean, I think that's pretty simple. And now the question is can this team win the World Series? And I think the answer is no. I don't think that they have a complete lineup. I think there are too many holes, like shortstop, third base. Those are both holes. You know, left field, you could argue, is a hole too. Like catcher, I mean, Austin Wells has been fine, but he hasn't been great. Though that's like 3 or 4 holes in your lineup alone. Your rotation has holes. You have a 1 and a 2, and then your 3 gets a little shaky. That's a hole. Your bullpen has holes. You got a good closer. Devin Williams has been bad. Camilo Duvall has been bad. You got holes there. That's 3 holes in the 3 aspects of a team, and I cannot say with any good consciousness that this is going to be a team that can make or win the World Series, especially with Aaron Boone as the manager. Like that's too many holes, in my opinion, to bring this team together. I think that they can make it if this guy, Aaron Judge, has like some Herculean effort, but he hasn't been good in the playoffs in the past, so we'll see what happens. It's too much to put on the shoulders of one guy. I think they can win a series because you can have your 1 and 2 go out and pitch really well. You win the first 2 games, and then after that, we'll see. I couldn't see them advancing past the ALCS personally. I don't have them winning the World Series. I don't have them coming out of the American League. I think the American League is weak right now, but I don't think this Yankees team is strong enough to be able to go out and win it all the way. Make sure to put your thoughts in the comments. If you think this team can go out and win it all, go disagree with me in the comments. I'd love to have a discourse with you, you know? But that's all I got for you for right now. Thank you for watching Good Sports For You, and I'm out.